Hi, this is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Wednesday, April the 23rd, and this will serve as our chart lesson for today. And before I pulled in, I just want to show you the big picture. Here's the divider from yesterday, but this was the down sloping trend line that started yesterday afternoon, and so I wanted to pay attention to that. And you see it didn't really come into play right here, but if you copied that and drug it down to here, which you probably should have. Remember, I tried that yesterday and it didn't really fit, but you can usually count on it coming into play at some point, and it did. This early this morning it came into play, and that's where prices turned when I copied that and drug it down here. And I started with it here, and it kept overshooting it, so I didn't feel very comfortable with it there, so I tried it here, and come to find out that's exactly where. So sometimes you just have to play around with these lines. But before I move on, let me show you one other thing. Prices kept trying to work lower, so the trend was down, and they weren't working back to this. So then I start dragging it down until suddenly it fits right there, and there's that same slope. Just playing a little. The channel just got tighter, and really that's the same thing as the first two swings of the day right here. The first two high swings, and so that would have given you that. And if you copied that one and drag it down to right here, you still get the same thing. So as you can see right there, so always play around with these lines and try to make a if necessary, if you're looking for where prices may reverse, try that. So even if you didn't find it till right here, but I wanted to show you how you can use it to find both sides. And you don't necessarily have to get there the same way. Even if you drew it off these first two swings here, like that right there, even if you drew it, you probably would have had it a little higher right there, like so, right across that close right there. And then if you drag that down to that low, then you would have known these reversals were down here. So you can find the same, you can get to the same place the same way, but the best way to do it was to get this line right here and copy it, and then just start trying to plug it in until you found a fit, and there it is, a perfect fit basically for the most part. And you probably wouldn't have found that till after the fact, because if there's no price action down here, you're not going to see it. But by the time that opening swing came right there, right after 8:30, you should have been looking for a trend line off those two swings anyway, and just to see what you came up with. So even if you didn't have it like that, you probably should have it drawn like that right there, and you can see it still came into play. Or a lot of times it's off the closes, and if you really got it off the closes of this two bars, you see it came into play right there, and that turned prices. So just play around with that. I wanted to show you that. It didn't really come into effect for today's trading a whole lot, other than where the reversal came about down here. But other than that, it didn't really come into play, but it's still helpful to know it's there. So let's back out, talk about the trades. And I'm going to use today to talk about something a little bit different rather than going over each of these trades. What you want to do, I'm always trying to use analogies to try to tell you about trading, trading is so ingrained in my mind that everything I do, everything I see, somehow I see a way that it reminds me of trading, or or it makes me think about trading. And so and that's just because I do it every day, and I'm so involved with it, with doing these videos and so forth. So it's always on my mind, even when I'm not trading. I'm thinking about trading, or something to do with trading, or a teaching lesson, or something that I can share with the rest of the group. So this is something that came to me. I was watching last night. I was watching a TV program, and it had to do with lions in Africa, and it was basically, it showed a mother lion and her two cubs, and it showed them hunting and so forth, and it showed the skill that they have of how they hunted. And this, I'm getting somewhere with this, so bear with me, and then I'll talk about the trades real quick, but I'm going to leave these on the chart here so you can see them, but I'm going somewhere with this story. But at first it showed the two young tigers, and they weren't cubs. They were, they were older, but they were still relying on their mother. So I don't know, I forget how old they are, 6 months to a year or something like that. But the mother basically was still providing for them as far as bringing them food. And it showed them trying to catch food, and they were just jumping. Everything that moved, they went after it, and they were just more, it was more playtime than it really was of them actually catching anything and eating it, or for survival or whatever. But then it showed the mother how she did it, and she laid in this high grass, and you couldn't see her, and she laid there for hours and hours and hours, and she watched antelope after antelope go by until she finally saw one came by that was limping a little bit, and when she saw that opportunity, she knew the animal was injured in some way, and within a blink she pounced on it and she provided a meal for her and her cubs. But what that made me think about is that's what a trader has to do. You have to be a predator, and you have to be stealthy, and you have to be patient. You can't be like most traders are like the tigers. They're jumping around looking for a trade every second. They're constantly looking for a trade instead of waiting on the trade to come along. It's the right one, the one that's going to work. And where are those trades? The same place I always talk about them. They're at the key entry points. They're at these trend lines. They're at the key support and resistance areas, and if you drew that trend line across there, it's I guess I shouldn't have taken these off. These trades, and you should have at least had this trend line right here this morning, and if you had you could have, if nothing else, you could have been prepared for this trade right here, and it's right off of that key entry point, or off that trend line. For some reason I can't get this line to draw right. There it is. If you drew it across there, you should have been prepared for that. But anyway, the key entry points are here, and these points off this trend line, and these points off this support, or these points off this resistance, that's where you're laying in wait, hiding in the grass, waiting for these trades to come along and set up. And I guarantee you, when prices come down here and I'm thinking about buying, most losing traders are thinking about getting short. The prices are going down. They're not thinking long. Why would you think long here? Well, the reason you're thinking long here is because this is where the support is. This is where something's going to happen. Prices are going to find support, and they're going to bounce. And you see how quick and fast that move was. And so it's real quick and fast trades usually. It's same thing here. Look, prices broke lower, came back, tested that line, and you might have even had it right here. But usually the closes give you a good spot, and the close was right there, right along there. But and then you had closes right here too. But anyway, prices broke lower, came back and tested that line of hell, and then boom, look how it exploded up as all these shorts started exiting, and all the ones that all the new longs say, hey, I don't want to get left behind, and they jump in and drive it higher. And then same thing right here. Then suddenly, look how bullish that looked. But when it hit that key entry point right there, and that's just a failed, if nothing else, it's a failed break above these highs right here. And look what happened. Prices instantly got just as bearish, even though they were that bullish. So again, going back to the analogy, you can't be like the little tiger cubs running around chasing every trade, constantly looking for an entry. You're waiting on prices to come to where you are expecting something to happen, and that's at support areas, resistance areas, and that's all trend lines are slanted support and resistance areas. So you're waiting on pullbacks to these areas so you can get in on these trades. And if the trend is up, what we want to do is we want to wait on pullbacks to this trend line. Look what happened. Every time prices pulled back and touched that line coming up through there, and you should have had it in place by here. So look what happened there. It takes off. Look what happened here. It takes off right there. Every time prices came back to that line, it took off until it was overdone up here, and then you finally had a break. And my guess is we'll retest that high, and then before there'll be any. So again, it's your key entry points, and you want to be a predator. You want to lay in stealth, and you want to be patient. Don't be chasing these trades down, looking for a trade constantly. When the market is trending down like this, we're looking for reasons to get short, and that's pullbacks to the EMA, the trend line, double tops, etc. When prices are trending up, we're looking for pullbacks to the trend line, the EMA. We're looking for double bottoms, and most of the time when you see a reversal, it's going to be a double top in a downtrend, and when prices are going to reverse, there's a double or triple bottom, and look at there it is, and then prices reverse. And so hopefully that made sense. And again, I know sometimes my analogies are probably corny, but it's just so it's amazing. When I was sitting there watching that program, that's what came to my mind, that those tigers are all the traders out there that just can't wait to get in the trade, and they can't wait to put their money on the line, and they're just eager to enter at any point, when if all they do is just sit and wait, the trade will come to them, and they don't have to be chasing bad trades and wondering if they're entering at the right place. Wait for the key entry points. I can't say that enough. Only enter at the key entry points. And where are the key entry points? Support and resistance. It's as simple as that. And remember that support and resistance does not have to be flat like this right here. This is resistance all the way down through here. Oops. You never grab the spot you want to grab on these charts, but and this is support all the way up through here. All this is a slanted support line. So keep that in mind. And it was kind of a, it was really just a choppy day until early afternoon, and I was nowhere to be seen because I was done by this time. And but this was the only really good move. This move wasn't too bad. It's just slow and choppy, nothing exciting. No real runners anywhere because they're constantly coming back and stopping you out, excuse me. And really this was choppy move all the way back up too. But it was pretty obvious that once we went into this trading range and prices broke out, you don't know for a fact that this is going to happen, but you buy here and you hold on to a runner, and if you did, your runner was safe, and you could have ridden this all the way to the close today, all the way pretty close, at least till 4:30. And you actually could have ridden it all the way to the close if you wanted, and but you've been better off to exit once we broke the trend line right there. Especially on this retest, I would have gotten out when we started overlapping right here for sure. But I probably would have exited on this big last push up, especially when this one couldn't go any higher. I would have definitely exited right there, because prices are going to come back to this EMA, and it being that late in the day, even if they are going to bounce, there's not much time for them to bounce far. So get out up here, and you're going to get the lion's share of the move. And you're not ever going to get all the move, so don't even, when you don't get all the move, let's say you traded this and you exited right in here, you entered down here, you exited right in here, and then 2 hours later you come back and you say, look, I got out and I left 5 points on the table. Don't worry about that. You can't get all the move. You don't know exactly what the market's going to do, and if you just stayed in, it could have come all the way back and taken all your money back. So take what the market will give you, and if it goes further, then hey, that's great, but you got your piece of it, and be happy with that, because if you start second guessing yourself like that, it will mess with you emotionally, and you will make emotional mistakes. But the moral of the story today is I'm going to let the trades just sit there so you can see what I traded. And basically all I was doing was trading support and resistance. This trade right here was a little bit iffy. I marked it because it is a two-legged pullback to the EMA, and we weren't back down here to the support yet. So it's a second entry short on a two-legged pullback to the EMA, so it's a good setup. I'm not crazy about it because they're all dojis, but all the same, if you took it, it met our rules and it did work. And that's what this was right here, a two-legged pullback to the EMA. Again, this one was getting iffy because we had this little trend line and we had a break here and we were already down to a new low. But anytime you see a two-legged pullback to the EMA with that bearish of a bar, it's almost worth the effort. And and it's also a breakout pullback short from this little triple bottom over here. This was the trade of the day, really, right here. Because it's a double bottom. We've already had the trend line break, and if you had this lower trend line in place, you knew we were bouncing off of it a second and a third time here. And again, all you're looking for is a pullback to test this area right in here again, but with the hopes that you're going to catch the low of the day. And if you do, look what happens. And any runners would have been safe, and you could have gotten as much of that as you wanted, depending on how you managed your trade. And I often get a lot of questions about managing the trade and why I don't talk about that part more often. And I'll be honest, the hardest part is learning where to enter properly. And managing your trade is almost a personal type deal. Some people, like to have a target and they stay with their trade till they meet their target. Other people like to tighten their stop as they go. And I'll be honest with you, I struggle with that some myself. The best thing to do is pick one way and stick with it, because when you try to pick and choose, you're always wrong. And I'll be honest with you, that's one of my weak spots, is that I'm always trying to pick and choose when it's going to run and when it's not. And most of the time I just get confused and make a mistake and screw up and either give back too much money or leave too much money on the table. So there's really not a right or wrong. The idea is use the strategies that I talk about, figure out which one that you like the best, that fits your personality, and just trade it that way every time. Don't try to experiment. Don't try to pick and choose. You know, if the one you choose doesn't work over time and you don't like it, then there's nothing wrong with changing. But whichever way you decide to go, make that move every time, because if you don't, it'll, you know, even if the odds are 90% on your side, you'll be the 10% guy. I don't know why. Don't ask me. It's just the way the rules of trading. If you pick and choose, you're wrong every time. You gotta, whichever way you go, you gotta consistently do it that way, or else you'll probably get it wrong most of the time. And but anyway, hopefully that was helpful to you today. Remember, don't be the little tiger cub running around out there chasing every trade. Be the stealthy predator that waits on the trade to set up. And when it comes, no questions asked. You know, the worst that happens is you're wrong and you miss it and your stop's in place and you get stopped out, because it is scary to enter a trade long right here when you've had all this down movement. But look what happens. It almost, once you've proven its support, it may break a little lower, but eventually it's going to bounce back. And most of the time it'll do just like this right here. Come down here and maybe break it down and leave a few stems, and then it reverses and it rockets off in the other direction. And same thing right here when prices are selling off. People are all thinking short. And right in here, anybody that went short right in there, look how far we are away from the EMA. All those overlapping bars, that's a trap waiting to happen. When you know, I've talked about that setup before. When you see that setup and it breaks lower and reverses heading back to that EMA, you better get on board, because it's going back to that EMA 99.9% of the time, and a lot of times it's going higher. And same thing right here. You're way away from the EMA. You got all these overlapping bars. It breaks lower. It traps all these people that just, I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why anybody would enter down there. They just don't know any better. And they're those little tiger cubs that are inexperienced, and they're eager to give you their money. And don't argue with them. Just take their money. Take the trade in the reverse side. But I understand it's hard to be thinking long when you got a bearish move like that right there. But that's what you got to learn to do. You got to learn to think almost as a contrarian, and be thinking, you know, where the reversal is going to happen, where the trap's going to be, where the trick is going to be. And if you learn to spot those, you know, you could just trade traps all day long. You know, there was a time when that's all I'd do is just wait on. I got very good at spotting traps. And I just wait on traps. I didn't care where they were at. If I saw a trap, I traded it, and most of the time I made money. But over time I learned that, you know, even a trap, if it's not at a key entry point, a trap can sometimes trap you. So you got to be careful with those if they're not at key entry points. But if they happen like this at a key entry point, that right there is just a trap. Look how prices broke. That's the best kind of double bottom there is. And if you get a double top like that, I don't see one real quickly, but anytime you got a double bottom and prices tick a single tick lower and then immediately reverse, that's better than an equal one, because you know a lot of people got trapped. There were a lot of shorts, people that went short right there. I guarantee you there were hundreds, if not thousands of people today that got trapped right there at the very low of the day. And that's the ones that are exiting like crazy all up through here, and a lot of them are just hanging on for dear life, praying, please, Lord, let the market come back this time. I won't ever sell down there again, and guarantee tomorrow they'll sell right there again, because that's human instinct. That's the place that seems comfortable. Hey, we're going shorter and prices are fixing to break lower again, and that's exactly where you get trapped. So, but anyway, I've talked enough. This is 20 minutes. I'm done for the day. Hopefully you can see the trades and they all make sense, and we'll pick back up with trades tomorrow. But I felt like talking about the being a predator and trading like a predator just really made sense, and it hit home with me, and so I hope it did with some of y'all too. But this is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.